quantum healing hypnosis practitioner, among other things. But the purpose for this particular video is to share some tips and tricks to prepare for and to have a really positive quantum healing hypnosis session. So this is the video I'll be sending my clients who've booked a session. All right, so if you've dove into the Dolores Cannon world or listened to any of her books, a lot of the sessions that she shares are of people who went into this deep theta trance and had this epic journey and then listened to the recording later and didn't remember anything, because in the past human consciousness couldn't remain conscious while tuning into super high frequency energy and information. So in the past, people would go into a hypnotic state, the theta trance state, and not remember anything and need to listen to the recording after. Human consciousness has changed. And I remember when I went for my first quantum healing hypnosis session and the person told me that I need you to be aware of the fact that you will remain aware through this practice, I was scared because I thought, I don't know, my thinking brain is so strong that what if I can't do it? What if that part of me can't let go? I was actually wanting and seeking an experience where my left brain just got taken out of the picture so that I could access my wisdom and not have to deal with that part. But unfortunately, and fortunately, it's just not the way it is anymore. It's just not the way it is anymore. And there's a blessing to that. Human consciousness has evolved. Hypnotherapists have had a front row seat to the evolution of the human spirit, the human mind, human consciousness. And it's exciting because since there's a part of us that remains awake and aware through a session, it also remains true that you are always able to access source consciousness level wisdom throughout your days. And you're receiving that information all the time, whether you choose to tune into it or block it out or explain it away. You are always receiving it. So a quantum healing hypnosis session can really help you feel what it's like to let your left brain move back and to let things through with the right brain. And everybody can do it. I could do it, and my mind is really active. Also, I'll say this, I don't know if I should say this online, but I'm going to anyway. Sometimes for certain people who are really strong in their analytical mind, it can be helpful to have a little microdose of psilocybin just to help move that out of the way. Not talking about going to a state where you'd be doubting the information that comes through, but sometimes I do work with people in that way too, just to help create the best conditions for you to access your wisdom. But we'll leave that aside. It's definitely not necessary. Everybody can get there because we all move through theta every day, on the way into sleep and on the way back out of sleep. There's that little special window of time. So if that's something, if you've booked a session and you want to talk about if that might be an appropriate thing to include, then we can have that conversation. Okay, tips to have a great session once you've actually come and you're here. I'm going to be guiding you on a journey when we get to the induction. And I just want you to step into the wonder state that a child would be when you're getting read a bedtime story, and to allow your imagination to create the images and the pictures and to go along for the ride without analyzing how you get your information. When somebody's reading you a story, you can enjoy the story. You don't have to step into, am I seeing this clearly enough? Is this picture real? Is this idea real? Is this enough? Am I doing it right? Am I understanding the story in the right way? However you receive your information is yours. Some people have a little movie screen in their head. Some people just kind of play with the concepts and can still create a little magical world. It doesn't really matter if you're super visual or somewhere on the spectrum. All of the insides of our brains are different, right? So just allow yourself to enjoy. There's a whole part of our session that is getting practiced, and I'll know and direct you a little bit or suggest or try different things. If one way is not working, you don't have to think about it. You just get to enjoy And then by the time we're actually into where I'm going to be asking you things that are relevant to our mission, that shift is subtle, and you just get to keep on going. So talk and talk a lot, give as much detail as possible. When I ask you a question, just say the very first thing comes into your mind. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter if you think it makes sense or not. That's the left brain. We want that to move out of the way, and it's almost like automatic writing. It's like automatic talking, just saying. And I give this analogy all the time too, that it's like turning on the water in a kind of frozen hose. And as long as you get one drop of water coming through the end, as long as that one drop is coming through, over time, it's not going to freeze up. That drop will continue to turn into 2, 3, 4 until we're in full flow. We just need to start with one. That's that first word that you say. So talk and talk a lot. Allow yourself to go along for the journey. Enjoy the ride. Do not overthink. As a matter of fact, try to think as little as possible. We have a time later in the session that we'll be able to ask questions and analyze and understand. We simply don't need to understand. We need to be open to whatever is arriving and just trust. Trust, trust, trust. And that's another big piece. We're going to spend a day together. We're going to have at least 5 hours. We're going to have 2 hours at least before we even get you on the bed to have your session. So the most important piece for a successful session is for you to trust that I don't have any judgment, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, and there's no uninteresting part of life. Everything is relevant, and I really care about knowing about you. So yeah, I'm going to ask you about your family and your childhood and any past traumas and relationships and your relationship to your body and any physical things that are going on. And if you can trust me to open up and share before we have our session, then that's going to be way less likely that there's going to be a part of your left brain that steps in to try to block the flow of information when we're in the session. So trust is huge. Trust that I'm there as a force of love to hold you, whatever comes up. And even the deepest, darkest, weirdest shit, I'm there for it because it's part of our journey, and this is held sacred, and I approach this work as incredibly sacred. So yeah, that's important to know. That's also probably why you chose to come to me in the first place. But anyway, just preparing for the day. Don't drink too much coffee ahead of time. I don't want you caffeinated and wired. I will feed you snacks and nice tea, and we'll get into the energy of it. And I think that's about it in terms of tips to prepare. Also, I mean, you will have received this probably in an email from me, but we do want to know why. Well, at the beginning, I want you to think about why you want a session and to be honest about the fact that there are things you want to know. Even if other things show up and we change our mission a little bit, because once we've talked, maybe different questions come up, that's great. But it is important to know that this isn't some roadside attraction that you're just coming to mess around with consciousness to mess around and find out. We actually want to help you in the very best way that we can in this lifetime. And there's something that you want. There's something you want to heal. There's something you want to break through. There's something you want to change. There's something. And we just really need to be honest about that we're allowed to want. We're allowed to want more. We're allowed to want expansion. We're allowed to want connection. We're allowed to ask the questions that we're afraid to ask about relationship or alignment or career. And yeah, sometimes the answers that come are going to require you, if you choose to believe and trust yourself, to make big changes in your life. And it's a verse. You have all the answers within you once you hear the answers. To believe and trust yourself and follow through, or maybe create, ways of discounting it because it's uncomfortable. So that's another piece. I do offer ongoing integration and support, even a 3-month container, where if it seems like it's something that you really are going to need help and support to make big changes, to help feel it in your body, to help tap into your inner wisdom and keep taking those steps forward, we can talk about that. I offer that, because sometimes you have this a big thing happen and you can see it all, but then when the rubber hits the highway, things can feel really different. So this is deep work, and I honor you for the courage to explore your soul journey and how much bigger you are and how connected you are to the universe. I cannot wait to be with you in session. So those are my tips for a good session. I can't wait for our day. So have a very beautiful day until then.